Right. Hello. Welcome to the TradeGame channel. It's January 6th, 2025. I'm Daniel. Um, and I apologize for not having made update videos the last couple of days, and my voice may sound a bit off. I'm got some sort of respiratory virus or something, and so I'm trying to take care of myself. I've been kind of laid up the last couple of days. I have not been looking at the market as much as I might have otherwise. Okay, so what are we doing here? Pepe's doing Pepe thing. I've been correcting downwards a little bit in the last couple of days, but hopefully we'll just be. Hopefully he's just going to consolidate and keep moving to the upside. That's kind of what it looks like to me is happening there. Um, let's take a look at the CME chart. And just kind of get a feel for what Bitcoin is doing. Remember, Bitcoin is king still in the crypto market, and so an awful lot of attention gets lavished onto this particular coin. It's the equivalent of gold, and it functions much like gold in the cryptocurrency space. Uh, uh, and so, yeah. So anyway, but it really kind of even more than that. It's really the being the oldest and original cryptocurrency. It gets quite a lot of focus. So whoa, hey, look at this! Wow, we're pumping pretty good with our Bitcoin here up to 103. Um, that's great. Don't know if we're going to actually see this continue to go up and get up over the 108 that it saw before. Um, we'll kind of have to see. It might. We saw a big move up to another price range following the election here in the States, which might be due to a very, in this case, a rather influential country. There are many influential countries, but the U.S. is one of them, certainly. And we have elected a very pro cryptocurrency, or at least he's the president that we've recently elected has pandered a lot and said that he's very pro cryptocurrency, or at the very least is certainly very pro market, and pro commerce, pro. He's very supportive of the financial sector and deregulation of the financial sector in particular, which could be quite useful for us. We like to see that in the cryptocurrency community because some of the regulations that have been placed on cryptocurrency by the U.S. are very problematic, and it makes it difficult for people in the U.S. to participate in this global endeavor, and it's sort of handicaps really us a bit. Of course, there are reasons why the U.S. Regulatory community has kind of been behaving the way it does. They have good reason to do that, but in any event, this is, in my opinion, why we've seen new price discovery in Bitcoin, and we're possibly going to be ranging from 110 down to 88 here for a little bit. We've just had another upswing in Bitcoin, and it might have found a local high here. It's possible that it set a higher low here relative to the other day. So we don't really know. It may be potentially beginning to. It may have reached the apex of this peak, and it might start swinging down, but maybe not. It also, at least if you look at the Heikinashi indicator, it's possible that it's just starting kind of a downward sweep here. This green candle may turn red depending on how things go over the course of the day, but we'll have to kind of see. So we may ultimately see a correction down after a really big move up. You see. So this pump that I was talking about, trying to get my bots to catch and start on a swing up. I'm not necessarily trying to predict when Bitcoin is going to go and do price discovery at a higher range, like $120,000 or something like that. I'm really just looking to try and catch it on a local oscillation where it's moving up when it's ranging within this pattern, just so the bot can create some profit and be in profit immediately when it starts, so that you don't have to stress out so much over liquidation. So anyway, so we've had a nice bump in Bitcoin over the last couple of days. Great, that's what we're looking at. Some people who comment on such things feel that this level here around $91,000 on this day, December the 24th, was the bottom for this correction, for this cycle in Bitcoin. Might be. It's possible that we're going to start forming a wedge pattern, and it's going to start setting higher lows on the bottom as it sort of consolidates and gets ready for a movement either to the upside or the downside with Bitcoin. I'm not really sure. But I personally, to me, with this much bullish movement all at once, I would expect this to correct down at least a little bit over the next day or two. Just because the market needs to satisfy some of that liquidity created by just having such a hard pump, such a big currency. But that's my take on that, at least for today. And I know that everybody's always talking about Bitcoin, including me. So let's see how our guys are doing, though, our bots. Let's go. Let's see. I pull up my list here. Let's start with, how about we do the Solana bot first, right? Yes. Okay, so I'm looking at this on my phone here, so I can kind of see the status of the bot here on my phone. Okay, so our Solana bot, we've broken out of the wedge. This, to me, Solana's looking pretty bullish here. It's broken out of its wedge successfully. It's consolidated a bit and pumped up. So at least according to the Heikin-Ashi indicator, on the daily time frame, and also on our oscillator, it looks like we're on an upwards leg for Solana. So this price action hopefully will keep going up for a little bit. But we'll have to kind of see how it happens. If Bitcoin does experience a bit of a downward correction, that also could cause the same sort of similar thing to happen in Solana. So this may ultimately peter out a little bit, and it may trend down some. I would be looking to restart this Solana bot if it was in profit, but it's not in profit right now. And I do expect Solana to fare well over the course of the year. So the question for me is it going to get down to this liquidation value and mess up my whole bot setup? Not so much is it going to just be in loss for a little while, because it's okay if it's in loss for a little bit and then goes into profit. That's not a big deal. We can wait. Patience. Good things come to people who wait. So the saying goes, to he who waits, or however you'd like to say it. Anyhow, so this guy looking okay to me. Liquidation value is still around $145, which is a pretty low price for Solana. So not really in huge risk, but I do like to see this the situation, because if it does range up a little bit here for a while, it may produce a little bit extra margin, and we can kind of push this red zone down a little bit further and be a little bit more secure against a market crash, temporary market crash, because those do happen sometimes. All right, so that's Solana. And I'll try to not take too much time talking about these, because I know we got a bit to go through here. ApeCoin also looks to be pumping. But of course, remember, if Bitcoin decides that it wants to take a bath, or as I say, I'll say Bitcoin wants to sneeze, where it sort of goes achoo, and then goes down just temporarily, all of a sudden for a second, and then goes back to normal. It does that sometimes, and it tends to cause a lot of other coins to also take a bath in their price, and it can really shake you out of your trades if you're day trading with higher leverage. So you have to be careful of that. But trading with lower leverage, you're considerably more secured against that, and you can, depending on how you play it, actually, if you can catch one of those low points as an entry point for a long, you can actually use that as an opportunity. Anyway, so ApeCoin's doing good. It may get up above its grid here. I would expect a little bit of a correction down, and then probably continuing up, fill out the rest of this green section. An ApeCoin might go out of its grid. Hope it doesn't, but it's kind of not the big a deal if it goes up above its grid a little bit. If it does happen to just sort of oscillate back and forth in this range, between its recent, probably all-time high of 2.1, or at least recent high of 2.16, $2.16, or you could say, and this recent low, which is kind of sort of where we started the bot of 86 cents, and it'll be just fine. There'll be periods where the bot is a little bit unproductive because the price actions moved above the grid, but even if it's only productive on and off over the next few months, it should still accumulate a fair bit of return on entry and should still be a good venture for us. So that's where ApeCoin is at the moment. So looking pretty bullish for both Solana and ApeCoin. The only thing really that I'm thinking is that if Bitcoin decides it wants to temporarily correct downwards a little bit, but I mean, looking at it on not the CME chart, but this chart, the sort of standard Bitcoin chart of Blofin, it does look like we may still be mid-pump, and this might continue to range upwards a little bit. Question, I suppose, is it going to get up to 108, or is it going to set a new high low here? Only time will tell, really. But so what everybody's looking to see now with Bitcoin is it going to continue and go up and break above its 108, 110 level, or is it just going to swing up and then come back down and start sort of consolidating and kind of idling in its price a little bit under $100,000, which to me seems a more likely scenario. But at least in terms of right now, we may still see some good bullish movement over the next couple of days, just looking at these indicators. But as I'm sure I've said before, and I'll say many times, the market is going to do what it's going to do. It doesn't matter what we expect. Doing market prediction is a little bit like trying to predict the weather. You can make reasonable predictions, but ultimately what's going to happen is going to happen, and it's so complex that it's really quite challenging to actually accurately predict what happens in markets. But cryptocurrency is not the biggest of the markets. Cryptocurrency, in fact, is still a rather niche market compared to the stock market, in terms of the amount of money in it, really. So that's one of the reasons why there's opportunity in it, is that and it's still not really a mainstream form of investment for a lot of people. The stock market still is where most people go. All right, and then Dogecoin. Dogecoin also looking pretty good. Had a nice little pump here. Might come down and try to test this 10 EMA line and challenge that and may find support there. But probably is going to, even if it does correct down a little bit, continue on further up before it reaches the end of its next wave. So Dogecoin probably will keep going up, but there might be a little correction over the next day or two prior to that. Of course, remember, all of this is just my personal opinion. None of this is financial advice. Please do your own research. Do not take my word for anything. These are only my opinions, and I'm often wrong. So, well, I'm sometimes wrong. We are human beings. Human beings, by definition, are not perfect. And so do not do not trust me explicitly with your money or anything of your stuff because I'm a human being. Yeah, so anyway, my point is this is all just speculation on our part. And as I've pointed out before, these overlays, these indicators, are neat, but they are not showing you any information that is not already on the chart. If I take these off the chart, the same information is still being displayed here as was on when the indicators were showing. It's just that the indicators show you the same information in a different way, and that can kind of help to conceptualize what might be happening in the market. And that's why we use them. So, Ripple, XRP. We were looking at this one. My suggestion was that on the daily time frame, it might be forming a bit of a flag pattern, a descent or a wedge, presumably descending wedge, or kind of going straight out, really. But it's fine; it doesn't matter really that much. And it's going to be an upswing. It tried to challenge, it looks like, the upper side of this descending wedge and is having a hard time getting over it. So it may ultimately break to the upside or to the downside. I'm not really sure. Like a lot of these currencies, it's had a big pump, big increase in value recently, and it has a need to satisfy at least some of the liquidity this would create. And so a move to the downside wouldn't be altogether unexpected. The question is, how much of a downside move are we going to see? It would not surprise me terribly if this did something similar to what Solana did, if you watch the videos, where it may go up here, break out of its wedge a little bit. People might get really excited, open a bunch of longs because they think, oh, it's gonna go and pump, hooray, awesome, money, 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 whatever. And then it may actually tank temporarily instead, and then go up following that. So the smart money is not necessarily to enter into a long right when it first breaks out of its pattern, just talking about market psychology, but rather to wait and see what happens, because often it comes back down and retests a level of support one last time before going up. But this is all assuming that you're trying to do scalping trading that is shorter term and more risky and tricky and requires more experience, which is not what we're necessarily trying to do. What we're trying to do is grid trade, and so whether or not this happens is not of huge importance to me necessarily, as long as we kind of stay within this green zone and don't just trend all the way down into liquidation. It shouldn't really make a huge difference for us. But we'll see how it unfolds over the next few weeks with Ripple. But again, Ripple I do think is a good investment. We have two bots going on it. Grid's going down to about $1.85 or $1.86 per XRP, going up to about $6, so we'll be actively trading it up there. Although if the price does move upwards to $6, the bot will be trading less frequently than it will at the bottom. At the bottom here, our grid lines are going to be pretty condensed around the current price action, and as they get up to the higher values, around $5 or $6, the grid lines on our grid strategy are going to get more spread out, and we're going to be trading less often as we get up there. Just decreases the total amount of money that you have to put into the bot in order to make your initial investment when you start the project, but still allows you to extend your grid up pretty high so that you can still be actively trading back and forth, even kind of at a further flung price range. And really, the grids being further apart up here, where you're going to be making maybe 1% or 2% profit, or upwards of 5% profit per grid line, is actually more optimal for these bots. And if you do this in spot, often the better performing spot grids that don't use leverage will have take profit values in between their grid lines of like 8% or 10% or 5% or something. And so the grids are pretty far apart in that style of grid trading. Whereas with futures grids, because the fees are lower on individual transaction in derivatives contracts, you can be more efficient with more frequent transactions and smaller profit margins because the fees cut into your trading less because the fees are less overall. But also because you have the risk of liquidation early on with these bots, you really want them to just eke out as much as you possibly can right at the beginning in order to try and extend these liquidation ranges down so that you don't lose your investment. And so for that reason, we concentrate the grid lines at the bottom or at the start of the grid when we're doing these, and then let them expand to wider grids where the bot will be trading less often, but will be more efficient in its trading once the price action has gotten further up into the area where we think it will go. And that's just sort of how that works. Okay, so our XRP bot, what do we got going on here? It looks like our XRP bot triggered. Hooray, that's good. Because if these aren't active, they aren't going to do anything. So it looks like we were able to successfully catch this down wick here on this local sort of swing up. It had a pump, and then it came down and corrected a little bit, which is good. That's fine. That's what we were looking to do. And, didn't catch quite the exact bottom of that wick, but that's perfectly fine. We're not looking to get that close, really. With this, some people will try to get the exact bottom of wicks, and they'll set a whole bunch of orders and stuff, but I think that's more for bragging rights than anything, and we're not here to feed our ego and be prideful. We're here to try and participate in commerce and try to establish a return on investment and be wise. So it's okay that we did not get the absolute lowest, the absolute bottom of that wick. It's really not a big deal. All right. Goodness. All right. XRP bond. So, right, so we got our older one, which is in its grid, doing just fine. That's awesome. It's at about 16% profit and is trading. And then our newer one, hooray, is also at about 12% profit. It started right here, and it's going off. And we're hoping that the price won't break down too much on this newer one. The newer one has slightly higher leverage. It's, I think, 8 times leverage bot, and so it will have a greater risk of liquidation than the 5 times leverage bot, which is the older one. This one right here. So this newer one, okay. What do we got here? This newer one now has a liquidation value of, I'm going to set this up so that I have some idea where this is. Liquidation price of $1.77. Oh, is that going to let me? What is $1.7711? Okay. Yeah. All right. So. So prior to this, I think I had the liquidation value for this new XRP bot that's got higher leverage, about 8 times. Yes, 8 times leverage. Was at the expected liquidation value when the exchange was giving me when I created the bot. But when they do that, they're trying to predict the liquidation value, assuming that the bot is going to continue trading and will produce some margin, but it's really hard to actually predict. It's really hard to actually predict price action. Price might go poof and go straight down, and we'll just see. It might print a red candle and just liquidate the bot and be terrible immediately. which would be a shame. I'd be out some money if that happened. But currently, what we're looking at, I'm relatively pleased with this because we've activated the bot. It may range further down into this wedge pattern, and then break to the upside or go sideways or break to the downside. We're hoping, of course, that it will break to the upside at some point. But as long as it does break to the upside or continues ranging sideways, we'll be totally fine, and this bot will produce some amount of return on investment through the action of its grid trading, which is great. If it does break to the downside, then we'll have to be concerned that it might get liquidated, and we may lose our investment that we put into margin we put into the bot. But it will also be doing its grid arbitrage as it goes down if it does break to the downside. And hopefully that will allow us to extend this liquidation level down to a lower zone and just sort of hang in there, and perhaps survive that downturn in the market, instead of effectively hitting our stop loss or hitting liquidation. With these bots, you sort of use the liquidation value as the stop loss value. Basically, you're gonna either make a profit. You're gonna either have the bot close and all of the money you put into it will be gone, or you will manually close the bot at a time that you choose, and it will be either in slight loss or in profit, or yeah, that's essentially it, really. But we're hoping, of course, to close these in profit, and we're hoping to not see these bots get liquidated. But that does happen sometimes, and it's just a fact of life when you engage in this type of activity, this type of investment, or I guess I should say trading, commerce. Anyway, so this one has triggered. We can delete our activation line here, and we'll just have to see where XRP goes. To me, XRP looks like, at least on our indicators, kind of the same way the rest of the market does. We sort of look like we've started one leg of an upwards movement, of a bullish movement, and it may kind of hover a little bit, but my thinking is that it will continue to test the top edge of this wedge, and it may break out. Although, again, would not surprise me if it breaks out a little bit and then goes down and then goes up. But we will just have to kind of see. In any event, so that's XRP. Oh gosh. All right. What else did we have going on? XRP. We looked at Doge. We looked at Ape. Okay. BNB. We had a BNB going. And I don't think there's going to be much to report on this one. Yep. It's, looks to me like BNB is getting kind of to the top of a swing, possibly, here. So, and it's possible BNB may not correlate as much with Bitcoin as some of these other currencies, which is fine if it doesn't. There's certainly nothing wrong with that at all, actually. But we'll just have to kind of see. It looks to me like this is beginning to get to what could be a local high. It's gone up and created a pretty big wick here on the daily chart, and our oscillator is starting to show these bright green bars that are getting pretty big. It might start giving bearish symbols soon. So this one might be due for a downswing sometime in the next 3 to 4 days, something like that. Not necessarily a catastrophic one, mind you. I'm just talking about an oscillation down in a wave pattern, because it has recently set a peak. In terms of just TA, like on the face of it, kind of a lot of these are looking pretty similar. and that we had a recent big event in the market back in November, December, where a lot of attention came into crypto and a lot of fresh investment, a lot of fresh dollars came in, which is cool. That's great. Um, but it may be that it may be that we've set a local high as a result of that positive news event for BNB, and it may be forming after that disturbance in that disturbance in the force. Uh, you may be setting a. I'm just me being a geek there. Just maybe me. Ugh. It may be that it has set kind of a local high and a local low following that news event that generated a lot of interest into this cryptocurrency in the market in general. Following the election, having a sort of pro-market government in the U.S. would likely have made investors feel safe about putting money into some of these speculative investments and some of these more risk-on prospects. And cryptocurrency is typically a risk-on prospect for investors. Um, so following that disruption in the market, it may be forming a wedge pattern because after a big disruption in the usual oscillation pattern, it'll often kind of go into a wedge pattern where it's sort of had a whole bunch of momentum because something exciting happened, and then it'll swing fairly wildly back and forth, but getting more gentle each time it goes until eventually the price action has to break either to the upside or the downside. Or it could always go sideways. I mean, it can always go sideways, but usually we look to see if it's going to break to the upside or the downside because it tends to be a trend one way or the other. Um, which is not to say that no asset ever has gone sideways in price. That certainly does happen sometimes. But anyway. Yeah, but if this asset, for example, if BNB does go sideways in price, that would actually be optimal for us because we are grid trading. What we are doing is systematically engaging in day-to-day trading on a grid. And so it doesn't matter as much to us if the value of BNB goes through the roof. That's great. It's good for us because we're investing in it and we're going long. So we're buying it with the expectation of selling it at a higher price. But it would be also to our benefit if it goes sideways because we are engaging in this specific form of commerce that's referred to as grid trading, high frequency grid trading. Okay, what else do we have to look at? ADA and Ethereum. We need to get going. I had an ADA bot that it looks like did not hit its trigger price, which is a bummer. Um, but things happen sometimes, and not entering a trade that could have been successful or unsuccessful is really not a loss. It's really not a problem. It's entering into trades that go badly for you, or at the wrong time, or haphazardly without clear intention. That is what we want to avoid because that is gambling, and we're not here to gamble. We're here to trade the market. But it is possible to treat this like gambling, and usually when that happens, people lose money and have a bad experience. But that's not what we want to do. We want to be responsible citizens of the world, and so we're not trying to be foolish or jump into things too soon. So, a lot of bullish signs for Cardano recently. Crossed over our 10-day indicator, and we're starting to see some nice green candles in the Heikinashi. It looks like we were trying to catch a little bit of a correction. After it pumping really high, we were going to try to have the bot activate when it corrected downwards. And it looks on the daily candle like we just kind of set just a teeny bit below where it actually got to. So we just narrowly We could have had this bot go off and have it start trading, and it would have been doing okay because it would have had an entry price rather low, and we're going to the upside now. But it looks like we just sort of missed it. Yeah. So that's okay. So we just kind of missed it with Cardano, basically. And then there's also the Ethereum bot, and I actually, now that I think about it, should make individual videos for these because this is going to be running long already. This one. So it looks like Ethereum, we're kind of in the same position. We are trying to catch it so that we can activate the bot and have it be on an upswing and do well right at the beginning because we're going long with these bots. But we need to try and catch Ethereum in a downward correction so that it can start trading and immediately start having its liquidity, or not liquidity, its liquidation value start being actively moved down through the grid arbitrage profits of the bot. You don't want to start this if you have a bot that's going long when the price is trending down, because then you're at risk of liquidation as you're going down, and it's stressful for me and also just not ideal as an investment prospect. But that's where we're at in terms of the overview of our grid trading for today. This is TradeGame channel. This is Daniel. It's nice to talk to all of you. Please like and subscribe. That helps the channel grow, and if people get interested in this sort of thing, it helps to reach more people if you subscribe to the channel and like because it helps the algorithm. So anyway, God be with you. Please be good to one another, and I will talk to you later.